Good morning. My name is Steve Campbell. I'm the president of Cornerstone Wealth Advisor Group in Fishersville, Virginia. We are investment advisors. I've been in business since 1978, which officially means I'm an old guy. I have two young guys here, Andrew Kester, age 42, and Jeff Airy, age 41. We are about investing money for our clients, and we do a radio show each week on WSVA in Harrisonburg, Virginia, 5:50 a.m., 92.1 FM from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. every Saturday morning. We like to do videos to hopefully just educate our listeners and our viewers on how to invest money. So today I want to talk about avoiding mistakes that can kill your investment portfolio return. And there is an organization called the Dalbar Group out of Chicago, and they do a lot of consumer studies, polling of different subjects in the financial services industry, but their hallmark product is called the Dalbar Report. The Dalbar Report takes 10,000 people who want to be a part of this study, and they view all of their mutual fund statements, their 401k statements. They just get copies of everything. The Dalbar Group doesn't offer investment advice to these 10,000 people. All they do is observe what's going on in their accounts, and they pay each of these participants, by the way, $240 a year to be a part of the study. And what's interesting about this is that they run a report that is a 10-year rolling average of how the S&P 500 does versus the 10,000 investors. They then have a report based upon a 60-40 portfolio. How does the 60-40 portfolio perform versus the 10,000 investors? And then they do a report on the aggregate bond index versus the 10,000 participants. And what they find is that no matter what the markets do, investors typically do much, much less. And so this is really a study in emotional or investor behavior, which I got ahead of myself, but emotions play an awfully big part of that. And you may have had a time. It could have been in 2000, 2001, and 2002, or it could have been in 2008 and 2009. Could have been in 2020 when COVID hit, or it could have been 2022, which was a really tough year last year, where you stayed in the market for a good long time, but at a certain point you said, I think I have to get out because I think I'm going to lose all my money. And what this study shows is that most people that underperform the market, they get out after they've lost most of their money. In fact, that study indicates that most investors get out when they have absorbed about 80% of the losses. Then they get out and they want to go to a money market account because they're tired of losing money. They're tired of not being able to sleep at night. So they are out of the market, flatlining, while the market starts going back up. And then at a certain point, those investors say, I'm getting back in this time. I'm getting back in and I'm staying in this time. So they got 80% of all the losses. They missed out on about 80% of the gains. They get back in and they get a little bit of some more gains, but their emotions get the best of them again. And so, for example, it is not uncommon for the Dalbar study to show a 20-year average return for the S&P 500 at 8%, and the average rate of return for the investors at 4%. And what they found out is that it was emotions that led to that underperformance. Now, we talk about the emotions of getting out after you've already lost all this money. Here's the other emotion. Having a good year in stocks, and then maybe at age 63 or 64 or 58, when you probably should be at that point, maybe 60-40 stocks versus bonds. They go all in on the stock market. And again, they get in after the market's already gone up, and then they go through the pain of seeing that market drop. And so here's my advice today. Base your investment portfolio on a detailed investment financial retirement plan. Ask yourself, when do I want to retire? At what age do I think I want to retire? What am I going to need to retire on when I'm 65 or 67 years old? How much money do I have today? And how much will that money be worth when I'm ready to retire? And how much can I afford to put in on my 401k plan between now and then? And then meet with someone to help you determine maybe a good mixture of stocks versus bonds. For some people, that might be 50% in stocks and 50% in bonds. Other people, it might be 80-20. I always tell listeners on our radio show or viewers on our Facebook videos, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and early 50s, you should be 100% in stocks all the time. And frankly, never look and see how you're doing versus the market. Just realize that in the long run, stocks are going to make more money than bonds. Now, when you get close to retirement, reassess that. If you're within 5 years of retirement, that's when you want to really look at, can I afford to lose a big chunk of money right before I retire? Maybe then you're 50-50, half stocks and half bonds. But whatever portfolio allocation you have, stick to it. Don't let your emotions of fear in a down market cause you to abandon your plan that was probably a pretty good plan because you were of right mind. Emotions, let me tell you what I think about emotions. I remember when I was 16 years old, I was smitten with my girlfriend, and we loved each other. We had such big, long, we could talk forever. And you loved, your first love, those are wonderful things to experience. But that's where emotions are good. Emotions are good if your football team is in the Super Bowl and you win, you're euphoric. I have been a Washington Redskin fan for all of my life, and when they won 3 Super Bowls, boy, the emotions were wonderful. When UVA won the national championship in 2019, it was a wonderful experience. But let me tell you what emotions are not good for: investing. Emotions will likely cause you to either be stricken with fear and get out of the market at the absolute wrong time, or greed when you're chasing returns that are probably not in your best interest. So develop a plan, have a financial plan, a retirement plan, an investing plan, and once you have that plan, stick to it and maybe reassess it once every year or once every 5 years. But in the middle of the year when the markets are going up in a crazy way or down in a crazy way, please don't let your emotions be your worst enemy. And don't be like the football team that had lost 89 games in a row, and the coach comes in on Friday night and he says, "Boys, we now know the problem. It's us." And that's where most investors underperform, is because they didn't have a plan. They weren't accountable to anyone. It's good to sit down. Many times during a month, during a year, I sit down with a client and they want to do something, and it's my job to help them stick to the plan that we have in place. And many times I get calls back, "Thank you for not letting me do that." And so emotions, when you're 16 years old, yeah, they're good. Emotions when your favorite team wins, yep, they're good. But don't let emotions even be a part of the conversation as an investor, because they can really hurt you. So with that, have a great week, and hope your fall goes well for you. We'll talk to you later.
Content in this material is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. All investing involves risk including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss.